Hello, today we're going to be talking about doxycycline and also a little bit about omega-3s, a little bit about dementia, a little bit about Parkinson's. Very interesting topic. Many of you take fish oil for brain health, and that's generally smart. But for a lot of us, especially if you carry ApoE4, those valuable omega-3s might be hitting your blood-brain barrier like rain on a windshield. Today, we're exploring a surprising breakthrough, how low-dose doxycycline, which is an old antibiotic, may help preserve your cognition by stabilizing the blood-brain barrier. Think of the blood-brain barrier as your brain's fortress wall. Enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, especially MMP9, can punch holes in that wall. When that happens, inflammation leaks in and critical nutrients like DHA and EPA struggle to reach your neurons. At just 20 to 40 milligrams per day, doxycycline powerfully inhibits MMP9, tightening the blood-brain barrier, supporting clearer cognition, and helping your omega-3s finally get into the brain where they belong. This is real emerging science and a practical tool for longevity. Let's dive into your most common questions I hear from my patients on this and provide clear evidence-based answers. So, the first question.
What is MMP9 and why does it matter for brain aging?
So MMP9 is part of the matrix metalloproteinase family, a molecule scissor normally used for tissue remodeling. With aging, inflammation, or ApoE4 genetics, MMP9 becomes overactive. It degrades the blood-brain barrier proteins, allowing toxins and inflammatory cells into the brain while keeping out helpful molecules like DHA and EPA. Elevated MMP9 is linked to neuroinflammation, faster decline, and amyloid buildup. ApoE4 carriers in particular show markedly higher MMP9 from overactive periocytes, also causing blood-brain barrier breakdown years before symptoms begin. Low-dose doxycycline can inhibit MMP9 about 60 to 90% at brain-relevant concentrations, a major potential protective effect at these non-antibiotic doses.
How does low-dose doxycycline strengthen the blood-brain barrier?
So at these sub-antimicrobial doses, which are just 20 to 40 milligrams per day, doxycycline isn't really acting as an antibiotic. It is binding MMP9's active site and prevents it from cutting tight junction proteins like occludin and claudin-5, the very structures that keep the blood-brain barrier sealed. Animal models of trauma and stroke show up to a 25% reduction in blood-brain barrier leakage with less swelling and better neuronal survival. A 2022 traumatic brain injury study confirmed doxycycline reduces MMP9 activity, restores tight junctions, and protects neurons. In humans, this could translate to less microinflammation and less day-to-day brain fog.
Does MMP9 also play a role in the development and progression of Parkinson's disease?
So, emerging evidence suggests MMP9 contributes to dopaminergic neuron vulnerability and progression of Parkinson's disease. Elevated MMP9 has been found in the substantia nigra of Parkinson's disease patients, where it promotes degradation of the extracellular matrix proteins, increases neuroinflammation, and may accelerate alpha-synuclein aggregation and neuronal loss. Animal models show that inhibiting MMP9 can reduce microglial activation and protect dopamine neurons, suggesting potential therapeutic relevance. While data remains early, MMP9 appears to be an important upstream inflammatory driver in Parkinson's disease pathology.
Can doxycycline actually prevent neurocognitive decline, such as early Alzheimer's?
And then in regard to the question on Alzheimer's disease and the ApoE4s, there's growing promising evidence, especially for ApoE4 carriers, where blood-brain barrier breakdown drives decline. 2023 hypothesis paper suggests low-dose doxycycline may help long COVID brain fog and also chronic fatigue syndrome by reducing inflammation and tissue laxity. Alzheimer's mouse model treated chronically with doxycycline showed less amyloid, improved memory, and stabilized blood-brain barrier function. Additionally, a 2023 human study found doxycycline reduced fear memory, recall by 60%, showing meaningful effects on brain plasticity. Human prevention trials are developing, but early signals point to potentially delaying cognitive decline.
If fish oil helps the brain, why isn't mine getting in? And can doxycycline fix that?
That is an excellent question. ApoE4 carriers in a 2020 trial had 59% lower DHA and 66% lower EPA transport across the blood-brain barrier, largely due to barrier degradation from MMP9. When the blood-brain barrier is leaky, passive diffusion of omega-3s breaks down. By inhibiting MMP9, doxycycline can tighten barrier junctions and restore nutrient flow. While direct human data is limited, animal ischemia studies show doxycycline preserves the blood-brain barrier function in ways that would logically boost fatty acid delivery. Combine it with phospholipid form omega-3s, such as krill oil, or better yet, the lysovita version in the omega-110 centrate product, and you'll see at least 140% more hippocampal DHA. Clinically, patients often notice clearer thinking about 4 to 6 weeks into therapy, as this is a powerful synergy.
Is low-dose doxycycline safe long-term? And what about side effects?
Yes, this dose is FDA approved for chronic use in rosacea and periodontal disease. At the dose of 20 to 40 milligrams, it minimally affects gut flora and carries very low risk of antibiotic resistance. Side effects are mild and uncommon, such as brief GI upset, less than 5%, or sun sensitivity, which is also rare at these low doses. A 2023 review supports long-term safety, even in neurologic context. As always, do this under the supervision of a longevity physician and do not take if pregnant or planning to become pregnant. For those adults over 50, it seems to be a low-risk, high-upside longevity tool.
How do I start using low-dose doxycycline with my omega-3 routine?
So generally, we would have you take doxycycline in the range of 20 to 40 milligrams once daily, with food if you're sensitive to it, and separate from calcium or iron, as that can affect absorption by about 2 hours. There are no meaningful interactions with fish oil. We would have you switch to krill oil, and if you can afford it, get the Accentrate omega-110 product for better blood-brain barrier uptake. Track your cognitive trends with apps like Luminosity, and a yearly CNS vital signs test. Monitoring would ideally involve some additional blood tests, which we will list in the show notes, which are still not easily available. And there are some less specific tests, like you can directly test MMP9. It's about $90, but it requires some careful interpretation that is contextualized. Personal guidance is key, so work with your physician. In practice, patients often report improved focus and mental clarity within weeks.
One of your patients asked why not use minocycline instead of doxycycline as it gets into the brain better.
That's actually a great question and shows how nuanced these choices are. Minocycline, if you take a look, does indeed slightly have increased uptake across the blood-brain barrier as compared to doxycycline, because it's got higher lipophilicity and achieves CSF levels which are higher. So for an infection, you would certainly choose it, but this is a little bit different. So what we find with looking at MMP9 is that doxycycline actually ends up having about 65 times more effect on inhibiting MMP9 than minocycline does. So in this setting, it is a much more potent agent for this use. So for brain health synergy with omega-3s, doxycycline delivers the targeted MMP9 punch with a better overall risk-benefit profile. Low-dose doxycycline isn't just an old antibiotic. It's a modern longevity tool that reinforces your blood-brain barrier and unlocks the full potential of your omega-3s. If this resonates with you, talk with your longevity physician. Please note, there are references in the show notes. And if you're a member of the practice, please schedule with me to discuss this topic if it is of interest. Until next time, stay healthy, active, and safe.